been there. I've been there and done that. I think one of the things, I just had a gentleman reach out to me and he heard me on a colleague's podcast and he said, I want to work with you because you're Canadian and you get it. And I said, that's exactly right. They call me the Canadian Whisperer now. I'm not exclusively the Canadian Whisperer, but I am from Canada. I am in the United States. I'm a dual citizen, and I truly have been there and done that. My now, thank God, ex-husband was deported on the way back from our honeymoon, February 2nd, 2007. He was expeditiously removed and then deported and barred from entry. And that was a really nice way to end our honeymoon. And to be honest with you, that experience, I was in the process at the time of getting my green card. I'd been through all the different visa channels and everything. And I was in the process of getting my green card. And I just thought it was going to be a given, you know. He'd come, we'd get married, everything would be fine. Didn't know that much about immigration at the time. So I learned the hard way. It wasn't so fine. And now my goal from there was to find a path to prevent others from experiencing similar fate, not just from like marriage stuff, but just in general, because when you're dealing with investing across borders, you're dealing with a lot more than you are when you're dealing with investing, you know, within the US or within Canada or within whatever country. And you have to look at both sides, whether you're American investing into France or Spain or Italy or Honduras, or you're from all those countries and more coming into the US. So it's kind of been an interesting journey. I've worked with real estate investors for a very long time, helping them get visas, helping them invest. I've been an investor myself. I am an investor. I'm a realtor and I'm a lawyer in 2 countries. So with all of these things, it made me realize, and joining EXP, which is an international cloud-based real estate brokerage, I literally held my license for 12 years, almost dormant. I did nothing with my real estate license. I would refer here or there, but I never really did much. I wasn't building a business around it. Yet I was working with real estate investors that were building businesses and potentially getting visas and just missing that link. And I started speaking about different matters related to bringing in foreign investors and how realtors can do better by bringing in foreign investors and how you can close more deals and how you can do this. And then I realized that I know a path to get an immigration visa through real estate. And a lot of lawyers and a lot of people that are in this space don't understand that path. And they think that there's not an avenue or a path. And they think, oh, it's too passive, and it could be. But then I said, okay, let's figure out how to create this model that will work. I have a friend and he said, you have to make this seamless. You have to make this so that my friend Joe Smith in Toronto says to you, Lauren, just take me through the process. I don't want to think. I don't want to figure out X, Y, Z, or Z. I want you to take me from A to Z seamlessly. And I want you to show me how to do it. So I said, okay, there's got to be a way to do that. So I created 10 steps to immigrate through real estate. And the first 8 of those steps are applicable whether you're immigrating or not. Because the reality is, no matter if you're investing across borders or you're planning to immigrate, you still have to look at 8 of these 10 steps to do that investment successfully. Whether you have a minimum threshold or not, whether you have a number of doors you're vying to buy or not, that's the key, is that you need a strategy. And without that strategy, one piece of which, or many pieces of which actually, you provide, you're done. You're going to have a couple of properties and then you'll be blown to pieces, unfortunately, because you're not putting the right protections in place. And so many people do that. So that's why I created the 10 steps to immigrate through real estate. So this is my 10 steps to immigrate through real estate. Now, number 1, even though it's about a recommended investment really oriented to a visa, the reality is that you're not going to want to start a real estate investment portfolio without figuring out how much you want to invest. So that's why the first 8 of these are relevant to investing across borders, whether you're immigrating or not. So the minimum investment, I'm going to talk a little bit focused on the visa side, but remember that we can modify this. And the key is developing a comprehensive strategy, again, a blueprint for you to invest across borders. It's not just like, let's come in and set up an LLC, which won't work for Canadians anyway, and invest in a property in Florida. No, please don't do that. You'll end up having to go and fix everything later, and it's always going to be a challenge. So, all right. So the first step is figure out how much you have for a down payment. So in an ideal world, you're going to want to invest out of pocket 150 to 200. There's no hard and fast rule in terms of the visa. It's not like EB-5 where it had a minimum investment. This is just a guideline that we like to follow, because real estate is a little more challenging to qualify you, because they say, well, it's not at risk. Your money's not at risk. And in a visa situation, they want your money to be at risk. So the actual investment threshold is a little higher, but that doesn't mean you have to put all the cash in at the get-go. And you can also get financing. So I have financing partners, we have all of those elements in place so that we can get you the financing, make sure that we have enough access to cash to get you in the door and start developing the portfolio. The 150 to 200, you should probably have invested at the time of application. So the money the business has to be a going concern at the time of application. But the key is that you may be purchasing property for, let's say, 500, 600, 700,000 total, but putting up the 150 to 200. And again, everything is all discretionary here. There is not, as I say, there's not a specific number. It's a substantial investment in a non-marginal business. So we know as lawyers that those are terms of art that are subject to interpretation, and they're interpreted differently depending on the business. So the more risky the business, the less you might have to invest. That's the reality. Okay, so number 2 is recommended 5 or more doors. I like to see at least 5 doors because it turns it into more of a commercial investment. And this is not 5 single family homes. That's not going to work. You want to look at Airbnbs, commercial properties, multifamily, things that actually involve running a business, because the key is that a passive real estate investor is never going to qualify. But an active investor that needs to be running a business and turns this hobby of real estate investing into a true business, that's when you can qualify. So we have to turn a passive business into an active business. And there's possibility of investing in a property management company, or maybe some other type of small franchise that complements what you're doing. There's options to invest in self-storage and mobile home parks and all kinds of other options that may decrease your real estate investment amount that's required, but increase your ability to get that visa and run a business that complements the real estate investing. No flipping. Flipping will not work. That's just wholesaling. It's not going to work. Even if you do a lot. Maybe if you did a lot of volume, then we could turn it into a business. And again, then it comes back to number 8, which we'll talk about, which is the business plan. And the business plan is the single most important document to prove that this whole model makes sense, and to show the immigration service why you need to have boots on the ground. Remember, if you're a passive investor, why do you need boots on the ground? You have to show why you need boots on the ground. So we have to be active. Cross-border tax guidance. I will not work with anybody anymore that has not spoken to, consulted with, gotten a memo from a cross-border tax advisor. And this is not somebody in your home country that says, oh, don't worry, you can invest in the U.S., or somebody in the U.S. that says, invest in an LLC. That's the way to go for Americans, because that doesn't work for your home country. So you need somebody that understands the rules on both sides of whatever the border is, whether it's a land border or water border, whatever. Okay. Number 4, the ideal structure. This is critical because, again, remember, your LLC in the U.S., it's not treated as an LLC. It's not treated as a corporate. It's treated as a corporation in Canada. It's taxed at the corporate level. So you don't want to use an LLC structure unless that LLC is owned by a holding company in the U.S. So that's why you need guidance with the tax advice to complement the two, marry the two together. Asset protection, because without that, you're basically compromising whatever you've built wherever you are. And so it's super important to protect your business and family to guide this asset protection model. Without that, you may as well not even bother, because you're just risking whatever you've built, and it doesn't make sense. Number 6 is basically all the professionals that we bring in together, from the tax advisor to the real estate guide to the financial advisor to the CPA that's going to do your taxes and maybe help with your books, and all of these professionals that are part and parcel of the investment portfolio and the investment plan and the strategy to go forward. And it's not like you can just have one and say, oh, I don't need the others. we recommend speaking with all of these professionals at the outset. Not that everybody's going to listen, but the more that you listen and the more that you consult, the better off your structure is going to be and the more successful your strategy will be. Financing. So most clients are going to need financing, and the options are going to differ depending on if you're investing in residential, commercial, or whatever. And they're also going to differ depending on where you're from and what your experience is in the US. And also some people, so a lot of my clients actually joint venture. And as long as you own 50% or more of the business, you can still qualify for the investor visa. But the joint venture advantage is you might joint venture with somebody that's done a lot of US deals and already has a track record and history and credit, and you may be able to have lower interest rates. So consider those options as well when we're looking at financing. Business plan. So business plan, even though this business plan is specific to visas, I'm not going to suggest that I'm always going to suggest, I should say, that you go forward with develop a business plan, no matter if you're investing for the purpose of getting a visa or you're investing for the purpose of building wealth or whatever the case may be. Because if you don't have a plan, then you plan to fail. And I've been writing business plans for over 20 years. So I'm going to say every day of the week, a business plan is the number one most important document, or a blueprint. It doesn't have to be a business plan. It can be a strategic plan, a business plan, some type of strategy, legal guidance and filing a petition. So number 9 and 10 are definitely specific to the visa process. If you're doing a visa, you need to bring in, we bring in an expert immigration attorney. Yes, I am an immigration attorney, but I quarterback the process. So my legal team handles the immigration petition, the filing of that. They use the business plan as the basis and create a model around that to submit usually to the consulate. And also the other piece that's really important is that every single dollar that you're investing, we need to be able to source that dollar. You can't say your Uncle Joe gave it to you or you got it from a sale of a property in the UK, because that sale of the property in the UK, when did you buy that property? When did you sell that property? Where's all that documentation? Source of funds are critical, and especially these days because you've got way too much money laundering going on. And last but not least, visa success and also preparing for the renewal. So you can't just say, oh, I got the visa, I'm done. No. We have to figure out your strategy for what you do next. If you have a non-immigrant visa, do you want to transfer that to a green card? Do you want to transfer your temporary status, in other words, to permanent? Do you want to renew that visa? Eventually, yes. Make sure you keep the business as a going concern. Work with us as a team so that we can keep things moving along nicely. So when it comes time to renew or extend to a permanent visa, you're ready at the door. You're not like, I only have 2 months left and I'm going to be kicked out. I hear that like at least weekly. So these are my 10 steps to immigrate through real estate. I will say one really important thing. Even if you get a visa, that doesn't mean you have to move. So many of my clients, especially in Canada, because there's so much back and forth, usually, not today, but usually, they get visas so that they have the freedom to go back and forth and not have to worry about it when they do come in for a trade show or to run an event or to visit their properties or whatever the case is. So just because you have that visa, this is a non-immigrant visa, does not mean that you have to move, but it gives you that freedom. And also if you're in a challenging country where there could be, some type of unrest or something, a more challenging country, let's just say, you have that in your pocket and you can use it when you need to. And if you need to get out, that's a perfect time to come. So everything is branded with Lauren ESQ. And of course, I have my podcast, Investing Across Borders. You can reach out to me. I'm pretty popular on LinkedIn. Lauren ESQ, you can always find me. And please, to set up a call to speak with me at your discretion to discuss options. I give consult to anybody that is interested in finding out more about your options to invest across borders and potentially get an immigration visa if you so choose.